Hey guys, in this tutorial video I'm going to be going over how to navigate the 3D workspace in Blender. So one of the most challenging things when you're trying to learn a new piece of software is learning exactly how to move the camera around and feel comfortable using the views in the software. And so Blender is pretty straightforward, but there are a few things that can slip you up if you're not aware of them or just finding them out. So in Blender, when you're trying to select an object, right now I'm going around the scene and clicking with my left mouse button, and that's what you'd normally use in a piece of software to select an object. However, in Blender, what that does is it moves around this thing called the 3D cursor. So you'll notice wherever I click, this little reticle follows around my mouse. And in some later videos I'll get into exactly what that does, but for now we're just going to ignore that feature. So in Blender, to select an object, you're actually going to right-click the various objects in the scene. So here I've right-clicked this cube, here I've right-clicked on this point lamp, and here I've right-clicked on this camera, and that allows me to select those objects. To orbit the camera in Blender, you're going to click down on your middle mouse button, and by sliding around your mouse you can see that I'm orbiting around the scene. And of course, if you scroll in and out with the mouse wheel, you'll notice I'm able to zoom in on whatever my camera is anchored to. So you'll notice that right now I am anchored to this cube, and I'm actually, well, not anchored to the cube, I'm anchored to the center point of this grid. And if I move the cube over this way, I'm having a hard time looking at it because I'm still anchored to this center point of the grid. So if I wanted to get locked back onto this cube, I'm going to go over to my number pad, and in Blender it's very important that you do have a number pad. That's how you move around your scenes a lot. I'm going to press the decimal point. And what that does is whenever I have something selected, it's going to route me to that selection. So after pressing numpad, period, I can orbit around this cube again. And say I move the cube back over here, you'll notice I'm still locked to where it was in space. Hit number pad period again, and I'm back on the cube. Say I select multiple objects by holding shift and right clicking them. I hit that again. I'm now locked to the center point of that grouping. So now that we've talked about how to anchor to objects or groupings, I want to talk about the difference between perspective mode and orthographic mode. So an orthographic projection is when you have all lines in a scene, they're basically either parallel to one another or perpendicular to one another. It's an axonometric, it's a drawing that you would never see in real life, but is very useful for when you're trying to do something with a lot of detail or go into an elevation. However, the way we see normally, or the way a camera sees, is in perspective. So you'll notice right now I'm actually in, I'm in orthographic mode, and you'll notice that all of my lines are lining up to one another, parallel. And if I go straight on to this cube, you'll notice I don't see any of the sides of it. It's perfectly flat. Now if I go into perspective mode, which I just did by pressing the numpad 5, then you'll see that I can't actually ever see the cube perfectly flat. I guess here it looks flat, but you'll notice that these lines are still going off to the vanishing point in the scene. And just so you can see it, I'm going to press 5 from perspective mode, orthographic mode, and perspective mode, orthographic. So you can see the difference there. So that's very useful when you're trying to see a scene, and depending on what you're trying to do in the scene. The next thing I want to show you is how to manipulate your view space around an object. So let's see, I'm gonna make this, don't worry, this is gonna be in a later tutorial how to do this stuff. Okay, so we have this object, and if I wanted to lock onto it, press my period on the number pad, but also I can go into top, bottom, left, right, front, back views by using the surrounding numbers on the number pad. So if I press 1, for example, it's going to take me to, we'll call it the front view. Then if I hit Control 1, it's going to show me the exact opposite of that view. And then 3 will show me the side. Control 3 shows me the other side. 7 will show me the top. Control 7 will show me the bottom. And then 9 will swap between the two. If you use the interstitial numbers between the 1, 3, 7, and 9, the 2, 4, 6, and 8, then you'll actually cycle between the different views in 15-degree increments. So that's very useful for when you're trying to get an exact view of an object so that you can edit it. And that's basically all there is to navigating the Blender view space. Except there is one way. If you have ever played a video game, you'll know that you can move with WASD. Well, to enact WASD movement in Blender, press Shift F, and then you're able to control your camera with the WASD keys and also moving your mouse around. So you feel like you're kind of playing a little bit of a game, but it allows you to fly around the view space. And if you tap Shift or hold Shift, you'll zoom so you can move a bit faster, and that'll allow you to get up into places that are harder to reach with the camera. And just make sure you click off with left click, and then you're back in business. Alright, well, I will see you guys in the next video.